Welcome to Let's Talk Nourishment, where we go beyond food and into the habits that truly nourish. I'm Abigail Parker, nutritional therapy practitioner, here to help you simplify wellness. Before we get into this week's episode, I have to share with you, I finished recording last week's episode and then I was like, oh my goodness, I have the light bulb going off. So last week's episode was all about improving your energy as we are getting into fall and winter where it's darker out, it's going to be colder out. And so motivation is starting to drain along with your energy. And I gave some great tips to help you improve your energy before you get into that winter slump, that seasonal depression. Well, after recording that episode, I was like, oh my goodness, let's do a challenge on improving your energy. So the 5-day energy reset is happening October 27th through the 31st. This is a free challenge happening via email where I'm going to be sending you a tip every day for you to actually take action and double your energy by the week is over, just in time for that time change to be happening, just in time for it to be getting darker earlier, so that you aren't having to worry about low energy this winter, that you are feeling really confident in how your energy is going each and every day. So if having more energy is something that you feel could benefit you, be sure to sign up for that at nourishedrevival.com/specials. I'll have that linked up below as well for you as well. So let's get into today's episode now. So you have probably heard the phrase, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And I 100% believe in that. And I preach on that with all of my clients. We are going over, are you eating breakfast? When are you eating breakfast? And what are you eating for breakfast? Because it is so huge in how you're feeling each and every day. You don't realize the fact that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when you are craving a cup of coffee, it can be because of what you had or didn't have for breakfast that day. I recently shared a reel on Instagram that was going through, this is what my breakfast looks like and I gave some examples of different breakfasts and how it impacts how I'm feeling throughout the day. It went over really well. And so I decided that clearly it's something important enough that I need to share it on here for you now. I wish I had those plates of food in front of me that I could show you all of them. So I'm going to talk through this, and I'm sure as I talk through it, you're still going to be able to visualize and understand, oh my goodness, it's like you're talking about me. This is my breakfast, right? A little bit of backstory before we get into that, though, is that breakfast has been a key part of my life for almost as long as I can remember. It goes back to when I was in 5th grade, actually. So I kept going to the school nurse for days in a row with a stomach ache. And my nurse, the detective that she is, managed to figure out that I was hungry in the morning. Can you imagine? I'm going to school with a stomach ache because I'm hungry. And I'm sure my mom had tried to get me to eat breakfast and I didn't want it because I wasn't hungry until, it gets to the point where it's like, oh my goodness, I'm starving. And apparently I had a stomach ache. So this turned into actually something really special because even now I can still remember having breakfast every morning with my mom at that point. My dad was working nights. And so I got to sit down and have breakfast with my mom before I went to school. And having breakfast has continued with me through all of these years later. My breakfast, of course, looks very different now from what it would have years ago. And a big reason for that is because as I've gotten older and I've been feeding myself, of course, I've learned that breakfast impacts how I'm feeling throughout the day. So I want to share how these different breakfasts are going to affect your energy, your mood, and your cravings. and how just paying attention to the food that you're eating can make this huge impact on how you're able to live your day-to-day life. So let's break this down, starting with breakfast number one, which is this is what my breakfast looks like when I feel in control all day. And I shared the actual breakfast that I was eating that morning, which was some chicken sausage, eggs, and a banana. This is what I consider to be a very balanced breakfast with all the macronutrients present. We have protein, fat, and carbs. This is going to be keeping your blood sugar stable, which is huge for how you're feeling throughout the day. It is going to help with your energy, your mood, your cravings, all of those things that I was talking about. So it helps to feel in control where you feel like you are able to go through the day without having energy dips. You aren't constantly hungry. Your mood isn't all over the place. You're not moody. It makes it so that you feel like your food is actually supporting you, as opposed to four other scenarios that I gave, which are very common scenarios that either I have done in the past or I've seen clients do. And especially the next one is very common when I am in a room talking about breakfast. Even on the post, I got comments about this one. So this is what my breakfast looks like when I feel on edge all morning, and that is coffee. Are you guilty of having just coffee for breakfast? I will tell you, I don't understand the hype with coffee for breakfast. I have seen people talk about how that cup of coffee just hits so good first thing in the morning. But I think that the problem here is so many people are struggling to have energy to get through the day that that caffeine has become something that you are relying on. And if you go back to last week's episode, I talked about cortisol and melatonin being your awake and your sleep hormones. And your cortisol should be coming up first thing in the morning to brighten your day and wake you up. And if that's not the case, then that's where you're feeling like you need that caffeine to get through the day. But it shouldn't be something that you're having to rely on. So whenever you are having to get that caffeine boost, yeah, it might be great to help you feel alert, but it can have its own issues. For me, especially, I noticed that if I was starting my day with a lot of caffeine, I felt on edge with a lot of anxiety. And is that a way that you want to feel necessarily, right? So, to each your own, if you like starting your day with coffee and you feel like that's something that is helpful for you, then by all means, do what works for you. But pay attention to how you're actually feeling as you go to start your day after having that cup of coffee. Our breakfast scenario number three is this is what my breakfast looks like when I'm hungry 2 hours later. And that is, I showed a plate with 2 eggs on it. Now, this is super common when I start taking new clients and we're getting into all of the things talking about what you're currently eating and how to change that to fit your goals. It's really common that 2 eggs are your breakfast because eggs are a healthy breakfast. They contain protein, which we know is good for us. But eggs are very low in protein in the grand scheme of things. You'd have to eat quite a few eggs in order to get what I would recommend to be the good amount of protein for you to start your day. And so often, if you're eating a breakfast like this, it's going to be a couple of hours later, you start to feel hungry again because of the fact that it's not the right amount of protein for your body. And so you may feel very out of control when you're eating a breakfast like this. Like you're constantly eating, you're constantly hungry. Because while I don't love to talk about calories, you need so many calories in a day. Your body's going to try to get them however it can. So if you're eating this small of a breakfast to start your day, it's going to prompt you to continue eating so that it can continue to get the calories that it's needing. It's not really going to be something that fully satisfies you. Then we get into breakfast number 4. This is my husband Zach's personal favorite, if he could. This is what my breakfast looks like when I crave something sweet all day and I had a banana in front of me. If Zach could, he would have a banana and toast every single day for breakfast. But what's the problem with that breakfast? Well, a banana and toast both are carbs alone. Carbs are going to be impacting your blood sugar levels. And we know that our blood sugar levels impact all of those things that I started off talking about: your energy, your mood, your cravings. So, whenever you are having that carb, that's something sweet, just a banana for breakfast, you're going to be more likely to continue craving something sweet, those carbs, the rest of the day. And this is something that I was very guilty of in the past before I knew any better. When I would start my day with something sweet like this, that I didn't realize it would continue the spiral of just wanting more sweets. Then number 5 is this is what my breakfast looks like when I have no energy and don't understand why. And can you guess what this breakfast is? It's nothing. No breakfast. We talked about cortisol. Cortisol is our awake hormone, but it's also our stress hormone. This is where cortisol is becoming more widely known because we live in a very stressful time. And so our cortisol levels can be on the rise to accommodate all of the stress that we're going through. I like to say that food is energy. And so if you're not starting your day with food, then you're starting your day with stress instead, because cortisol is going to be rising in order to give your body the energy that it needs. And yes, we are supposed to have our cortisol rise in the morning to give us that energy, but we should not be relying on it for our energy. That can lead to downward issues when we are having to rely too heavily on our cortisol to combat the stress that we're going through. So it can lead to an overall lack of energy. You may be feeling more brain fog, and you may have a crabbier mood even, and just feel more stress from life. I had a client who owns a daycare, and so she was fantastic at taking care of her kids, but not as fantastic at taking care of herself, which is why she wanted to work with me. She wanted somebody to say, okay, this is what you need to do in order to help yourself. And one of those things was just eating, because she would feed the kids and not think about feeding herself. And she wondered why she had no energy in the afternoon and had some brain fog going on. She wasn't thinking as well as she would like to, which of course, if you are, working throughout the day, especially if you're trying to care for kids, you want to be on top of your game, right? And so as she got started eating, it didn't take long at all for her to feel so much better, to have the energy, to feel the brain fog clearing away. Because food is important. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's going to set the tone for how the rest of your day looks. So often you get caught up in, I ate so poorly today, I need to do better tomorrow. And then maybe you're skipping meals around. But no matter what, you have to eat every day, and every day is a new start. So you get the opportunity to understand how food is making you feel and make the decisions that allow you to feel your best. That's truly what healthy eating is eating in a way that allows you to feel your best. And I hope when you think about feeling your best, you think about these things I've gone through, that you have all day energy. You can think clearly without brain fog. You're not fighting yourself with cravings or feeling out of control around food. There is so much more to life than these common struggles. And that's the thing, is just because they have become very common doesn't mean they're normal. It's your body's way of telling you that you're just not eating in the right way. And I can attest, my clients can attest to the fact that when you start to listen to these symptoms that your body is giving you and eating in the way that fuels you properly, they're no longer a problem. And you get to make space for more enjoyable things in your life. Now, a big thing, of course, that we talked about at the start of the episode and throughout the episode is energy. So, again, if you feel like energy is something that you could have more of, be sure to sign up in the description for the 5-day energy reset happening again October 27th. And if this episode was something that you found helpful, you learned something new, then be sure to follow the Let's Talk Nourishment podcast and let me know. Comment on here. I'd love to hear from you and start a conversation.